ahead, girl.
Welcome to Aging on the Suncoast. I'm your host, Jason Martino. It was just 2 years ago we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and what we commonly refer to as the ADA. This important piece of federal legislation is instrumental in recognizing individuals with disabilities and promoting meaningful independence throughout every community within our great nation. The Area Agency on Aging of Pasco and Pinellas partners with organizations that serve individuals with disabilities. Without these partners, we could not achieve our shared goal of promoting independence within the community, thus allowing individuals to live in the least restrictive environment. To assist our viewers understand what types of resources are available to persons with disabilities, we've invited Jody Armstrong, the Grants and Community Outreach Coordinator with the Disability Achievement Center, and Brian Rothey, the Government Operations Consultant with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Today, our guests will speak to a variety of resources their organizations provide individuals with disabilities. Jody and Brian, welcome back to the show. We're really happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having us.
No problem, yeah. We're going to start with you, Jody, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Disability Achievement Center. Can you just give us a little understanding of who you are? And
Absolutely. Disability Achievement Center is a center for independent living, and we serve Pinellas and Pasco counties. Centers for Independent Living are created as a result of the Rehabilitation Act of 1978, and they're located throughout the country. There are 15 Centers for Independent Living covering the entire state of Florida. We are all independent of one another, and we provide services that directly affect and contribute to our local area.
so I heard you say that you have 15 around the state of Florida, and you obviously work for one. And where are you located locally?
Locally, we're located on Belcher Road in Largo, and we serve all of Pasco County remotely, meaning our independent living facilitators visit our consumers in Pasco County.
You also serve Pinellas County too, do you not?
We do.
Yeah, and I know you have a plethora of different services that we're going to really get into, take a deeper dive into a little bit later on. And we have Brian here with us today, and he represents the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Do you want to give us a little understanding of who the Agency for Persons with Disabilities is?
Sure. So we are the State Agency for Persons with Disabilities. We're better known as APD. Our mission is to support individuals with developmental disabilities in living, learning, and working in their communities. Historically speaking, we were a developmental disabilities program underneath the umbrella of the Department of Children and Families. But in 2004, the state of Florida recognized the growing needs of Floridians with developmental disabilities and their growing complexities, and legislatively mandated that the agency stand alone, separate from the Department of Children and Families.
What a smart mandate.
Yeah. Absolutely. We serve individuals, and we actually, I define the term disability through Florida Statute 393.063 as a developmental disability that manifests prior to the age of 18 and is severe and persistent in nature, with the, I guess, expectation of continuing indefinitely.
Yeah. Now, Jody, I wanted to go back to you and the Disability Achievement Center on there. When we talk about disabilities, I mean, Brian added that disabilities are very complex, and there are a wide range of different disabilities that people could be dealing with. What kind of disabilities do you generally?
We serve all people with disabilities of all ages. So we don't target just developmental, or we just don't target physical. We do the entire spectrum.
Okay.
Bottom line, you have a disability, we will help you.
Yeah. So Brian was talking about that he represents the Agency for Persons with Disability, and that is a state agency. And your agency is a not-for-profit, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So what sets your agency aside from other agencies that might serve individuals with disabilities?
We're different in not only that we serve all people with all disabilities, but also that we are composure. More than half of our staff and our board of directors must have a disability so that we are who we serve.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And can you do it alone?
No.
No. And neither can I, and neither can the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. So we all work together, kind of like I was talking about in the monologue, to serve that common goal for those individuals seeking to have independence within their life. Brian, you mentioned the different types of disabilities that fall under Florida statute. Do you want to talk out loud of what those actually are?
Sure. So APD, the State Agency for Persons with Disabilities, serves individuals that fall into or essentially 7 different developmental disabilities. There's intellectual disability, autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, Prader-Willi, and the newly added developmental disability, Phelan-McDermid syndrome.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of coverage that you guys are having to do that. And your location is in?
Well, our headquarters is in Tampa, in downtown Tampa. We are the Suncoast region, so we cover 11 counties, starting in Pasco and covering down to Collier County in South Florida. Yeah, but our headquarters is stationed in downtown Tampa, and we do have a district office or an area office in Fort Myers.
Yeah, and I know when we were talking a little bit earlier, we had, I think the buzzword we used was regionalization. Do you want to talk a little bit about?
Sure.
Yeah.
So in 2013, the state of Florida regionalized APD into 6 different regional areas. The purpose of that was to increase uniformity across the state and through the services and programs that APD provides to individuals. So we are one of 6 regional offices in the state of Florida.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then you're covering all 67 counties, and I think it's smart. I think other state agencies have also regionalized in some way so they can promote uniformity through that too. I don't like to bore our audience with too much statistics, but I think some statistics can illustrate the types of individuals you serve, either in mass or by individual. Do you have anything to add to paint a picture for our audience today?
Sure. Well, currently the state of Florida is serving roughly 35,000 individuals on the Medicaid waiver program, and we do have a waiting list of about 21,000 individuals. And here in the Suncoast region, we can break that down a little further. We're serving just shy of 8,000 individuals on the Medicaid waiver program, with about 4,000 individuals on our waiting list.
That's a whole lot of people, and we talk about waiting lists, and the Area Agency on Aging and all 11 of us around the state are no stranger to waiting lists as well. It's just a fact that there is not enough money to meet the demand that's out there for the services as well. But it's something that we try to accomplish, serving those people by any means necessary, and that sometimes means that we leverage services with each other. Do you have wait lists for any of the programs? And I know we're going to take a little bit more of a specific look at your services, but any kind of wait list that you would?
Basically the only wait list we have is for our ramp installation program for access and inclusion so that folks can get out of their homes. Everything else, it all depends on our grant funding, what's available, and with the restrictions of those grants. We have to comply with every dollar that comes in. Some are geographically restricted, some are age restricted, but currently our wait list for our ramps is about a year.
Yeah. Yeah, grants are a beautiful thing, but they have a lot of technicalities to them, don't they? We were talking earlier too, and I think when we were talking about disabilities, you had mentioned to me that there has to be a diagnosis for that disability. Can you spend a minute or so on what it takes to get diagnosed with a disability?
Sure. So for each developmental disability that APD covers, there's a different diagnosis attached to that we would need to look at to determine eligibility for APD services. So for example, an individual with an intellectual disability, one of the things that we would look at is a psychological evaluation that is inclusive of a full-scale IQ score below 70. And to meet the requirements in Florida statute of severe and persistent, we would look at different adaptive testing and adaptive deficits per se for a diagnosis of intellectually disabled.
Yeah. Any type of diagnoses that you need with the Disability Achievement Center?
Self-stated.
Yeah.
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 If you have one, we are who we serve, so we know what's out there. We know what the resources are. Our staff is very well trained and very, very professional in being able to address the needs of the folks, and we know what our limitations are as well.
Yeah. What about age for eligibility? What ages do you serve? Do you have a specific parameter, a threshold, or do you serve all ages that?
All ages, all disabilities.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. We're going to spend a little bit of time in the second half of the show covering disabilities and the resources that you guys offer a lot more specifically. And so I'm trying to think, is there anything else that you think that we should be adding to the broad level view of what we're offering our audience right now?
Not at this time. I'm ready to jump right into what we offer.
Yeah. Yeah. We got lots to talk about during that time right there. So, good. So please stay with us while we take a short break. As usual, don't forget to have your pen or pencil ready. We'll be running contact information for the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, the Disability Achievement Center, and the helpline during the break and at the end of our show.
Many of us don't want to believe that elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation can happen to a family member, a friend, or even ourselves. Elder abuse is a growing problem and is severely underreported. Many victims are reluctant to report due to fear, embarrassment, shame, or guilt. In order to prevent elder abuse, we must take action. Don't be afraid to talk about the issue and report it to the Florida Abuse Hotline at 1-800-962-2873. Together, we can make a difference.
Welcome back to Aging on the Suncoast. During the first half of the show, Jody Armstrong and Brian Rothey helped us understand who their agencies are and what their agencies do. Let's continue our discussion and delve into specific resources both agencies provide within Pasco and Pinellas counties. Jody, Brian, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We took a 30,000-foot level view of your agencies, and we talked about disabilities in general and your locations and the types of individuals that you serve. And I think that we set aside some good amount of time on the second half of the show to really talk about the specific resources that you have. So we're going to defer to the lady in our crowd today, and we're going to start with the Disability Achievement Center. Do you want to talk about the services you offer?
Absolutely. As a Center for Independent Living, and all Centers for Independent Living offer 5 core services. Mm-hmm. The first one is information and referral. We had talked earlier about how we feed off of each other and we refer each clients to each other.
Sure do.
This is our resource list is vital. If someone with a new disability doesn't even know where to begin, we do. So that's why we encourage folks to give us a call. If you have no idea where to obtain services, we're a good start. The next thing is independent living skills. Independent living skills teach the basics on how to live independently, anything from budgeting to cooking. We have a very vibrant youth group that meets weekly that even started a green thumb garden outside.
Really?
So bringing this whole concept together of independent living, it's not only just budgeting and the basics, but we talk about current events and things like hurricane preparation and how to protect yourself against the flu. Our third one is peer mentoring. Folks with disabilities, there's tricks of the trade, and we try to pair folks up together so that they can improve their life situation. Our fourth core service is systemic and individual advocacy. On a systemic basis, we were the lead on the advocating for the creation of Pinellas County's Council for People with Disabilities, which just had its first meeting in December.
That's right.
And we're very proud of that.
Sure.
And it's a clearinghouse to an advisory group to talk about access and inclusion throughout Pinellas County. And we believe that folks with in the disability community know what's best and what are their needs, and to get their voice all the way through.
Awesome.
On an individual basis, an example I like to use is we had a deaf dad and hearing mom have a baby, and shortly after they split, and mom petitioned the court for full custody because, well, gee, dad can't be a good dad, he can't hear. Well, we got this dad into parenting skills classes. We went with him to every court hearings so that he understood the questions clearly, and today they enjoy joint custody of their beautiful 3-year-old daughter. That's a great example of a success.
That's cool.
Our 5th core service is transition. Transition means any type of change that someone is going to, whether you're leaving school and entering the workforce, whether you're moving from mom and dad's house to your first home, or moving from your great big home into a smaller and more congregated community as you age. We assist with all those types of transition. Those are our 5 core services: information and referral, independent living skills, peer mentoring, systemic and individual advocacy, and transition.
What a great 5 core services that you offer over there. And you offer a litany of other different things that, if we have time, we're going to talk about today, but those are the 5 core services that your Center for Independent Living, your agency, covers on there. Brian, you have a wealth of different things that you offer over there as well. When we were talking a little bit earlier, we were talking about the Medicaid waivers, and I have some familiarity with a Medicaid waiver, but who best to articulate it better than yourself?
Sure. So what is the Medicaid waiver program? The program is it's a state program that's funded through federal and state dollars, and it provides a plethora, really, of home and community-based services to individuals who basically, literally waive their right to being served in an institutional setting or a medical setting.
Right. And when we say, and I think our agencies do things very similar, but also with some differences, obviously, because of the nature of the business. But when we say home and community-based services, we really mean those services that can be provided in that person's home or within the community, and that allows that person to live independently in the least restrictive area. Now, you were talking about. And that's got to be pretty similar to what you mean by home and community-based service.
Absolutely.
All right. So you were talking about 2 different ways earlier of how you implement that Medicaid waiver. Can you talk about that?
Well, there's 2 programs that we use to implement the home and community-based waiver program. One of the programs is the individual budgeting program. It's the individual budgeting waiver, I'm sorry. And the second is the Consumer Direct Care Plus program.
Yeah, and what exactly is the Consumer Directed Care Plus?
Sure. So it's commonly referred to as CDC Plus, Consumer Directed Care Plus. It's actually a very unique program where the individual manages their annual budget and can purchase the different services and programs that they would like to see happen. What makes this program unique and different from the iBudget program is that the individual can hire non-Medicaid waiver providers. For example, an individual can hire their neighbor or their cousin or a friend who is a non-Medicaid waiver provider contracted through the Agency for Persons with Disabilities to assist them with their daily living or personal supports, whatever services that are needed. Another unique piece to the CDC Plus program is that the individual can use the funds that they're provided to purchase different therapies that are not covered under the Medicaid waiver program, such as musical therapies, equestrian therapies, and even a service dog. They're able to use the funds to purchase a service dog and the maintenance and upkeep and training of that service dog.
Yeah. In my field, in the aging field, we use a lot of different jargon, and a lot of times we try to spell it out, and I do my best for the honest, but I get caught up in my normal work life on here. And one of the buzzwords that we use in traditional aging services is case management. But I think in your world you use, is it support coordinator?
Sure. Well, under the individual budgeting waiver program, we have independently contracted waiver support coordinators. So under this program, the individual still manages their annual budget with the assistance of a waiver support coordinator who would basically facilitate and coordinate the services that that individual chooses to receive. Okay,
and that's going to be different than the CDC because the CDC, that person should be able to do their own coordination?
That person could do their own coordination, or typically what we see is a family member or a parent would act as their CDC representative and manage that budget.
Okay.
So.
Eligibility. I think some of us probably would want to know how does one become eligible for the Medicaid waiver programs? from
Okay.
that?
Sure. Well, it starts with an application. They can definitely go to our website and download the application, or stop into our regional headquarters office, fill out the application. To be eligible for services, there's the seven different developmental disabilities.
You want to say what those are again, just so we can remember?
Sure. So there's intellectual disability, autism, Down syndrome, Prader-Willi, cerebral palsy, Phelan-McDermid, and there's one other that's sticking out there I can't think of right now.
That's okay. We'll catch up to.
But there's different eligibility requirements for each of the seven developmental disabilities that we cover.
Okay.
Do you want me to go into detail for each?
Please.
So very briefly, intellectual disability, we would need to see a full-scale IQ of 70 or below, with deficits, basically stating that the disability is severe and persistent and expected to continue. Autism, we would need to have a confirmed diagnosis through a psychiatrist, a pediatric neurologist, a medical doctor, and again, adaptives that show that it's severe and persistent disability that continues indefinitely.
Yeah.
For Prader-Willi, we would simply need a medical doctor diagnosis. Cerebral palsy, medical doctor, or doctor of osteopathy. A couple other ones. Yeah, most of them are medical doctor diagnoses, and any type of adaptive testings, or a lot of what we see are school records, IEPs, that we're able to pull some of the adaptive deficits from to determine eligibility.
Yeah, an IEP, individual
Education plan.
education plan.
Absolutely.
The I got to tell you, your memory is great, and I appreciate that. There's tons of little factors that I have a hard time remembering about all the eligibility process. But you make it easy, and the reason why is because I've been on your website many times, and your website is very explanatory to a lot of the different processes that people have to take in order to become eligible for the program, or just really information in general to find out what is necessary to be enrolled in some of those programs. And so kudos to the Suncoast region and or to the state for designing a website that's pretty intuitive for that piece of it. And your website is also a pretty good piece of information. We mentioned earlier in the first half of the show how when we offer information and referral, that this little trio right here is we're doing a lot of referrals back and forth to people, and we have to have a pretty good understanding of how we can serve that person holistically. And sometimes that might mean a service from my arena, and a service from your arena, and a service from yours. Just broadly, what kind of other partners do you work with in the community to make sure that you can try to meet people's needs?
I'll have to give you a little bit of background. One of the services that we offer, I alluded to it in our RAMP program, one of our services, because as a SIL, we're all intentionally community-based so that we can meet the needs of the community with our other services. And one of our other services is in high demand, is our home modification assistance program. That's where we'll go in and we'll install grab bars and ramps. And recently, Habitat for Humanity in East and West Pasco, they recognize that their business model, the land is becoming too expensive, and they recognize the need for home modifications in the area. And what we've done is we've partnered with both of the agencies, and hopefully Pinellas as well, to offer as another resource. If we get a request for a home modification that we know we won't be able to get to quickly, we're able to partner with the habitats and say, here's another resource that maybe they may be able to provide quicker service to you than we can.
That's really cool. And what kind of cost does that person with the needing the home modification, what did they incur from that?
For my agency, nothing. It is we provide all of our services free of charge. Habitat has their own guidelines, and that's what they would have to comply with. So that's why I say we offer as another resource, and if it works, it works.
Yeah. And you have a couple of different things that that you offer outside of the 5 core services on there. When we were talking about communication, we know that is communicating with back and forth with anybody is essential to making things happen.
Absolutely.
And you assist people with that?
We do. We also, in addition to our home modification program, we offer deaf and hard of hearing services. We offer a medical equipment recycling program where we accept durable medical equipment, fix it, clean it, and give it to someone in need. And we also offer, in addition to our deaf and hard of hearing services, we offer the employment services, the on-the-job training, and job shadowing and self-advocacy for all people with disabilities.
Yeah. Can we go back to your medical equipment recycling program? Tell us a little bit about that.
That's where we accept basically, I can't say everything because we don't accept hospital beds or things like that, but wheelchairs, walkers, rollators, canes, raised potty chairs, any type of things that are not covered by insurance is basically what we accept. And we fix it, we refurbish it, and again, give it to someone who cannot otherwise afford it. And what that does, it gives them the independence to be out and about in the community again.
And you just give it to them?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty awesome, because those types of that equipment and those assistive devices in so many ways they can be pretty pricey.
They can be, and if you're trying to live on a fixed income, it's sometimes not unaffordable.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's so critical in our community.
And I know one thing that you offer in the community, because you did it for our agency. Your executive director, Jody Armstrong, came by and he did a Americans with Disabilities Act evaluation on our actual office to make sure that accessibility was, we were able to accommodate those individuals. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
We do that on a case-by-case basis, and as we are able to get out to you. But our executive director has been in the field for over 47 years. He has seen this, he knows everything, every in and out about every disability that might be out there, and we've always been strong on our access and inclusion. So he will do evaluations without charge, and the idea is to get compliance without a heavy-handed oversight, voluntary compliance.
Yeah, and that's a neat way to promote that.
Yeah.
Any last things you'd like to talk about the APD?
Well, there's tons of different services that I'd love to get into. I don't know if time's going to allow that, but any questions at all, you know, our website's going to be on the TV. You can certainly call or email me. Love to work with the families and you know, help individuals out.
That's great, Brian. We really
there.
appreciate you coming on the show and talking about your agency and what you do. And Jody, as always, we appreciate everything you do in the community with the Disability Achievement Center. We hope this month's broadcast was informative. We wouldn't have these resources without great organizations like the Disability Achievement Center and the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. We'll see you next month, and until then, maximize every resource our community has to offer.
Many of us don't want to believe that elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation can happen to a family member, a friend, or even ourselves. Elder abuse is a growing problem and is severely underreported. Many victims are reluctant to report due to fear, embarrassment, shame, or guilt. In order to prevent elder abuse, we must take action. Don't be afraid to talk about the issue and report it to the Florida Abuse Hotline at 1-800-962-2873. Together, we can make a difference.